Hello, it's TJ from Luzerne County Republicans, Patriot Grassroots group up in northeastern Pennsylvania. And I'm here speaking with Bill Bachenberg, running for
State GOP chairman.
And I appreciate it. It's a Sunday afternoon right before the football game, so I appreciate you taking the time. So what we're doing is we're going to get this message out to committee people so they decide who they should vote for or endorse, and make sure that we get the right chairman and the voice of the people are heard. So we're going to educate, inform, and inspire you to elect the correct chairman for the party moving forward. So I started with Greg Rothman the same way I'm going to start with Bill Bachenberg. Bill, I'd love to hear a little bit about you, a bio.
Okay.
Please tell us about yourself.
Well, first, thank you for all you're doing to help educate our state GOP committee members. They're starving for information of what's going on. There's a lot of rumors out there, so hopefully we can get to a real platform of why I'm running, why Lynn Ryan's running with me, because we've got a lot of issues to address. And a little bit about my background. Grew up on a farm in the 70s, got out of high school and went into grain farming and was farming 900 acres of corn and soybeans, and got hit with a drought in 1979, a grain embargo by Jimmy Carter in 1980, and then another drought in 1981. And it bankrupted me, basically. Was too proud to declare bankruptcy, so it took a good many years to pay off the debt, but I paid it all back. And I was taking some night classes, and I took that dreaded computer course. Everyone said, Bill, you're not good in math. But computers isn't math, it's logic, it's thinking. And got into doing some computer programming. And back then, we were on punch cards. We didn't have PCs. We didn't even have cellular phones back then.
Fortunately.
Yeah, we were at BAL, Basic Assembly. We were running at machine language back then. So got into the systems integration business. First petroleum distribution customer was right here in Pennsylvania. And some 40-something years later, they're still running the same software. And I've got to get them to convert because the hardware's obsolete. I mean, we've got extra hardware stored in case it fails, but they've got to move on. But let's get back to the technology company. I grew that into the 16th largest Hewlett-Packard reseller in the world and the 3rd largest EMC reseller. That was in the 90s. Pennsylvania recruited the company over to Pennsylvania as a high-tech company. They wanted higher paying jobs in Pennsylvania. I was right across the border in New Jersey. So we came here in 1999 and morphed the business into disaster recovery and computer hosting, and grew that into the largest regional hosting company in the Northeast. We had over 100 hospitals from Miami through New England. I mean, we truly provided life or death services out of the data center. 50 plus financial service firms, another 400 other companies. And a private equity group acquired the company to roll up under other companies underneath it. And now the companies, I think they're around a $700 million company. So technology background, started Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays back in 2000 actually. And started another technology company 3 years ago, and it's going to provide security and privacy for your mobile devices.
Oh, wow.
So they're not going to be able to steal your contacts, steal your pictures, your locational services, because your phone's worth over $2,000 to the phone companies and the social media companies by selling your locational data. So we're going to block that and stop funding our own demise. And then my wife and I, about 7 years ago, founded Camp Freedom. And it's an outdoor adventure camp for disabled veterans.
Good stuff about it.
Yeah, it's, from the humble beginnings of what we thought it was going to be to what it is today and the lives we've changed and saved. We've had over 12,000 visitors from 47 different states. And it's made a significant impact on the lives of our veterans and first responders, Gold Star families. So it's, been very humbling to talk to the parents of our heroes, of our American heroes, and say thank you for saving my son's life or my daughter's life with what we've done up there. And that's another experience of building teams. We've got such a phenomenal team of Matt running executive director and the team we've built underneath him. It's just phenomenal. And that's how we win. It's team building. It's Bill Gates wasn't a rocket scientist. He surrounded himself with great people. I'm not an operational guy. I'm a strategic guy. I surrounded myself with one of the best COOs, one of the best CFOs, and the company just took off. So that's what we need to do here with the state party.
Oh, fantastic.
You're
Great,
welcome.
great intro. Great
Okay,
intro.
thank you.
Thank you for Camp Freedom. God bless you for
Thank you.
it.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes and the hard questions, right? All right.
All right.
We'll get right into it. Strategic vision and leadership. What is your vision for the Pennsylvania Republican Party over the next 4 years, and how do you plan to address challenges such as party unity, voter outreach, and evolving demographics in the state?
Could you ask any more? That's like a whole week's worth of response on that.
Yeah.
Before we get started, I'd like you to know, and I'd like our committee members to know, that these responses I personally drafted.
Yeah.
Right. No consultants were involved.
Right.
I worked till 2 a.m. this morning on putting these together, and they're coming from listening to the committee members.
Right.
Right. It's
Yes.
experience of what's going on out there. As a leader, I like to listen. Anybody can pontificate about how great they are, but I like to listen, and you'll hear that throughout this here.
Yeah.
So, going back to the GOP needs a strategic vision. What I from which then I drafted a plan, right? It needs a vision. We don't have a vision that I know of, right? I've asked the party for a strategic plan. They probably wouldn't share it with me anyway. I mean, I wouldn't share my strategic plan with the whole world because it's strategic. Trump was, why are we going to tell him where we're going to invade? What are we going to tell him what we're going to do, right? We're probably giving him a little bit too much information already. But, we can't fix the problems until we can accurately define them, right? We've got to know what these problems are, and then we got to admit there are problems. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of times we're, what do they call it? Non-committal, right? Or we just don't want to believe there's a problem, and there's Bill's the problem. So Lynn's running as my vice chair, and we've got what we just defined as a mission, or in your case here, a vision for the party. Where are we going? And it's to build the PA GOP back into a fighting, winning political powerhouse that it once was. I mean, this state was red. And we got complacent, we got lazy. I don't know what the exact answers are, but we stopped doing what we were doing successfully. And we are now just losing in counties that were solid red. And, we can do some root cause analysis and look at that, which we've done. And that's something I did in my business, especially in the data center business. If the computers go down, if there's somebody in the operating room or in the emergency room, and they can't access the computer systems, they could die. So we did root cause analysis when something failed. And we need to do the same thing, right? It's not what we want it to be, it's what it is. We got to stop making excuses of why we're losing races. And we got a lot of work to do there. So, most businesses go on strategic planning retreats, with professional moderators. That's something I think we should consider doing the same.
Okay.
We need to involve the stakeholders, our county chairman from all 67 counties, right? It feels to me that it's the west side of the state versus the east side of the state versus the T. And that shouldn't be, right? Every committee person should have the phone number and address of every other committee member, and we should be communicating what successes are, what didn't work. What works up in Susquehanna may not work down in Adams, may not work out in Erie or in Philadelphia. So we need to understand those differences and then figure out how to leverage all them together. I was just introduced, let's see where I was. So I was out at my NRA board meeting, and one of our board members is very active in Indiana, working with the governor directly. And he says, "Hey, Bill, we just came up with this great program here 3 years ago of building candidates for the future to run." And we started talking about it, and he says more than 50% of them are from the minority demographics, and now they're getting elected. And he says, "We'd love to bring the program to Pennsylvania and Texas and a few other states." And I says, "Absolutely. We need to bring those kind of programs because they don't have to be homegrown. We can get them from wherever they are the best, right? We need to be talking to other state chairmen that have been having success out there." So, there's lots of help out there. And, when I did my letter of introduction back, I believe it was December 30th or December 31st. Remember, we've been only in this race about 25 days because we weren't supposed to be in it, right? There was a gentleman running. He was forced out of the race. They thought it was too late to get anyone to come into the race. So now with the black horse, we're behind the ball.
Right.
But we're playing catch up fast. We got a lot of good things still coming in 2 weeks here. But, I asked what was leadership. And I'm going to read this so I don't misquote it, but I believe some of the most important attributes of a leader is listening, listening, and listening. Right? Team building. We have to have team building. Moderating opposing views towards consensus. Right? We're all type A's. A lot of us are type A's, right?
Yes,
we're never wrong. We've got to work with each other to understand each other's point of views and then come to a consensus on that. We need vision. We've talked about this before, leveraging technology. When I had my systems integration business, we were considered what we always called the bleeding edge technology company. We pushed the limits. We were selling equipment before it was released because these companies needed that extra edge. Warehouse management system for Chanel, I remember, it was going into Christmas season. A law firm with 1,300 lawyers, they couldn't get their bills out because the machines weren't fast enough, and we allocated hardware. I mean, we built a cluster for data warehousing, $1 million cluster. It would fail over in like 5 seconds for credit card processing. So we've got the experience. I can take that and build around that. Developing sound strategies and then anticipating problems before they're problems, right? I like to look ahead, and that comes from my programming background, right? When you write a program, you don't start here. You look at the end product and then you work backwards. And that's what I think we miss, is that logical thinking, logical reasoning to come backwards without just getting all wrapped up with it.
Yeah.
And that's a good... So leadership, begins with earning the respect of committee members and bringing everyone together and not dictating from the top. And I've said this repeatedly. The chairman should not be picking winners or losers. The chairman should not be endorsing candidates. That is for what I'll call the rank and file of the committee members to decide. And if they want to endorse, them vote on it and decide. But it shouldn't be coming down from me. That's not the job of a chairman. And I'm going to talk about the chairmanship in a little while, because I think there's part of our problem. So, we hear this term of, we need party unity, right? That's a theme out there. I don't know about you, but, to me, it just seems to ring hollow, like a Miss America contestant, right? I want world peace. Yeah. I mean,
everybody wants that.
Everybody wants world peace. We all want unity, right? It's how are you going to get there? Are you divisive, right? How can you heal? So, one of the things I asked is, what I looked up is, what was the definition of unity? And the unity was, the definition is one. Like one what, right? So based on our GOP bylaws, the chairman is one, or the dictator of all the decisions. We have the worst bylaws that I've ever seen out there, right? It makes the chairman a dictator. Yeah. It does not allow the grassroots to decide. It does not allow the members to decide. We don't have committee structures where the committees report out with good information to the members of what's going on. I think, one of the number one committees we need, based on what I'm experiencing, is we need an ethics committee to evaluate the pardon the expression, crap that's going on out there right now. It's unreal. And if we held everyone accountable, and it was an independent ethics committee, so, it's not, hey, my buddy's on, it'll take care of you. I think that would help building the trust and transparency within our members. So, we've got to get over this, bylaw changes are for another day, and you know what, I tried building an org chart. I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, I tried building an org chart the other day, and I couldn't make it work. Right? And I built org charts my whole life, but with our organization structure, I just couldn't figure out why I couldn't make this work. And then I says, I believe many of our leadership problems are centered around the organization needing a CEO and not a chairman. Okay, There's a big difference between the two. And I think that's a big part of our problem. And, anyone can go to the web like I did, because, I know what a CEO is, but I wanted to get the official definition off the web. And, a CEO's role is to lead the organization in the right direction, right? In addition to guiding the rest of the management team. He is characterized for his great strategic vision, which allows him to make short-term decisions and guide the activity of the organization, right? And we don't have that right now, right? So that's part of the problem, right? The main responsibilities would be with the input of the state committee members, right? We don't include all our committee members. And that's what I hear over and over again. We're not included, we're not involved. But to determine the overall strategy of the organization, where we're going to go, identify and define the priorities. We can't do everything, right? We can't eat this elephant at once. We have to do it one bite at a time. And I go to bed every night with Post-its on my desk. The phone rings tomorrow morning, and I've got to reprioritize based on the phone call coming in. But we still have to have a written plan, because without a written plan, we have no plan. And then we need to have those priorities. And then, maintain the relationship with the committee members, the stakeholders, and the donors, and the voters, right? A lot of times we're disconnected with what the voters, and this was a good example of an election that we just had, right? The Democrats became completely disconnected with their voters, and their voters stayed home. Some of them came over, but if you look in Philadelphia, a couple 100,000 didn't come out to vote, right? And we only won by 120,000. So, I want to repeat that, we need the input of the majority of the state committee members. So they feel relevant. They're taking time out of their schedule, excuse me, to do things. And then, we have an executive director. The executive director then executes the output, right, of the state committee. And that gives the members that vote from the bottom-up process instead of the top-down dictatorship that we've been experiencing. I mean, I was leaving church this morning, and one of our friends came up to me, and he says, "Hey, Bill, I hear you're running for state chairman." I'm like, okay, where's this going to go, right? And he says, "Yeah, 3 years ago, I got on state committee, for my county, and it was a disaster." He says, "I went to the first meeting. It was so dysfunctional. I went to 2 more, and I never went back." He said, they just didn't have organized, and there was infighting. And I can understand we're all passionate, but at the end of the day, we've got to come together and work together. And I'm not unrealistic, right? I mean, I want to do better than the 80-20, right? I want to get, maybe 90-10 rule, where we get 90% working together, because there's always individuals that have other agendas and why they're there. And, I'm not a realist. So we got to work toward that. Many committee members feel they have no say. We've talked about that. We have a great diversity of experience and ideas and skills that we're not utilizing, right? We've got 380 plus, and everyone can contribute something, right? One of the things that we wanted to do at NRA is we have a board there of 76 board members. And my second vice president says, why don't we inventory all our board members for all their experience? What are their skills? What do they bring to the board? And also, what are their passions? And once we have that inventory of everyone, now we know how to better utilize everyone, right? If someone's great in writing skills, writing editorials, marketing materials, strategic planning, technology. I've already had 2 or 3 reach out to me that are programmers or in technology. They want to be on the technology committee. Is inventory all the skills of all 380, and that's going to be one of my first objectives. Let's get that so we know what resources we have. Because exponentially, we'll be exponentially more powerful. No one can stop us. Right? And that's, again, coming down to building these teams. The other thing what we really need to do is, I hear we have these state committee meetings, and they feel they're a waste of time. They come out to them, nothing gets done, right? What should be done is we should be voting on policy. Where and what are we going to do, right? At NRA, the board says we direct the EVP to do this.
EVP?
Executive Vice President.
Okay.
Okay. In this case, our would be our organization, the GOP's Executive Director.
Yeah.
We direct him to do this and to report back to the board the progress. I don't believe we do any of that. I mean, I haven't heard that from anyone. I hear we have a resolutions committee, and they go into sort of a dark hole when they come out of the resolutions committee. Mm-hmm. And the resolutions people are not happy, right? I mean, the memorial ones come out, but anything that's important just doesn't seem to come out. And remember, I'm getting this, some of it directly from them and others secondhand. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to experience it firsthand, so we've got to make sure it's legitimate, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone wants to complain about something, yes. And we just can't jump to conclusions. So, you know, that's one thing, is to get our state committee members involved in policy, in procedure, mm-hmm. what we're doing as an organization. And as I said, you know, what happens out in Washington County versus Lehigh County, it's different, but we all have the same goal, yes. right? Is electing good Republican candidates.
Yes.
Right, and that's a challenge. So, you know, I said, you know, let's look at an example of what hurts us every election cycle. Right, we don't have a formal candidate recruitment plan, a formal training plan, you know, a success plan for candidates. Right, it's like, and I've experienced this. Oh, it's weeks before signatures are due.
Yeah.
Right? Where are we going to run? Where are we going to find a candidate?
Right.
Oh, we got to convince somebody to run, right? Yes. Because their heart's not in it, right? Or they don't have the capability to go and win the general, which is the most important, right? The other one I really like, and I'm experiencing it, right, is I don't like the current candidate, right? Yeah. He dresses different. He's not one of us. He's from the wrong side of the state. So let's go out and get an unqualified candidate to run against him. Yeah. You know, it's so counterproductive. So we need to work, and we've set both of them up to failure, but if we start working on a multi-year plan to start drafting good candidates, instead of reacting just before there's an election, right? Yes. Knowing now that a congressional candidate is going to retire in 2 years. The Democrats started November 6th mm-hmm. already.
Yes, they do.
Right? We're still trying to figure out, you know, how we won, right? Have we done an analysis of why we won, how we won, what worked, what didn't work? Right? I don't even think we've done that yet. But that should be the first thing so we can start mm-hmm. moving forward. So there's a lot of work that needs to be there. I wrote down here, you know, from my observations, one of our major problems is we don't have that long-term plan, mm-hmm. right? The party needs more than a 2-year plan, right? I was asked the question, what should we do between Labor Day and Election Day? What's our plan? I says, we've already lost.
Yes.
Right?
It's too late.
It's way too late, right? Especially with mail-in ballots today, right? I mean, they start so early. So if that's the thinking of our committee people, or the questions I'm being asked is, you know, what do we need to do between, mm-hmm. We're done.
Well, that's what they're used to.
Well, business as usual,
yes.
right? It's changing. I mean, you know, we can't run this as we ran this party in the 50s, mm-hmm. or even, you know, 10 years ago. I mean, I had materials, the Democrats, there was 2 different organizations, each were spending $80 million 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. for the 2024 election to run candidates for the election offices. Mm-hmm. That's all they cared about, is who's going to count the votes. Yeah. Right? So Stalin said that. Stalin says he doesn't care who votes. Yeah. It's who counts the votes that matter.
Correct.
Right? And they're spending $80 million and Run for Something was one of those groups. And specifically they said we're targeting PA election offices, mm-hmm. right? Judge of elections. They're going for counting the vote.
They're playing long ball.
And where are we? Right? We've got so many unfilled positions. Mm-hmm. And I understand it. It's a lot of work. You know, there's no thank you to these people. We never thank our volunteers. No. Right? When I ran the Trump rallies, I got them up to the front row. I got them pictures with President Trump because they did the work. Yes. Right? I don't need another picture with the president. Mm-hmm. Certain these people, you know, all the politicians are there with their arm around the president. They haven't done squat for him, right? They go and support his competitors, for crying out loud, DeSantis or Nikki Haley at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, they don't deserve it. Let's give our workers. I mean, what Doug McClinko does up there with Rally at the Rock is phenomenal, right?
There's 3 of them.
A thank you for everyone,
Yes.
right? And we need to do more of that. I'm trying to remember the one they do on the river up here now.
Rally at the river.
Right? We need to thank our volunteers, our grassroots workers for what they do.
Yeah.
They put their hearts and souls into this.
Yes.
And they're crapped on.
Yeah.
I mean,
up in Luzerne County, our group, that's what we're about. We're about the people, and we have rallies and we have events, and they get certificates and awards and T-shirts, and it's needed.
Yeah. I mean, what we need also is we need a tactical plan for each election cycle, right? They change, right? Is it a presidential year? Is it an off year? We got, state road candidate. We need to have a tactical plan that's flexible, right? We can go in 6 months, 9 months, and then we start seeing something else happen, but it's got to be flexible. And I've always said, we can't keep winning elections if we don't know the enemy's tactics, right? The money is unbelievable money coming in, right? I mean, I've got a donor in Lehigh Valley here that gave over 13,000 donations in 1 year, $151,000, average of $11 per donation. And he's an associate pastor at a church. So I joke around and says, is he taking the offering tray? And right? And how that came about is I was just curious to see what my donations, what I gave to the party, to see what that added up to. And I just kept coming across another person, and that name was over and over and over again. And I'm like, something's wrong. Downloaded it, did some database work with it. I think he gave 2,000 donations, sometimes 10 in one day, all going to Act Blue. Right? It's a money laundering operation, right? And now they're estimating it's in the $30 to $35 billion range.
Wow.
Right? Dark money, I call it sinister money.
It is.
Right? Then I bring it to my DA. Well, can't do anything, Bill. It's federal. Well, my federal guy is a Democrat.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? So finally, the RNC did something, and they got some state attorney generals running with this now. But they weren't aware of it. So, we got to understand the tactics of what the enemy's doing out there, because we don't have unlimited money. And the other thing is, we can't have harmony and build a cohesive team when there's a history of shutting down debate, right? If we shut down debate, if there's no transparency, which is what I hear a lot of complaint about, they don't take advice. I mean, we punish our members. I mean, if you don't agree with the county chairman, you're not getting this job, you're not going to get reappointed, we're going to put you off into the side. That's unacceptable. And that's got to change. So that's something else that we need to work on. But, there's exponential power when everyone here works together.
Yes.
And that's really, what Lynn and I are. So, you want to talk about the grassroots. I know we spent a bunch of time here, but this is critical.
There's a point. Yeah. And, just moving on, I think you covered a lot of the questions in that first question.
I've got 100 pages more. No.
All right. Drink your coffee. Be ready. A little espresso. All right. Grassroots engagement and voter mobilization. How would you strengthen grassroots organization efforts to increase voter registration, engagement, and turnout in both urban and rural areas of Pennsylvania?
Boy, could I go to a lot there.
Under an hour.
Under an hour. Just this section.
Just this.
Well, to do voter outreach, we really need to look back what's been done in the past, right? Because the definition of sanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And, what does the RNC do every cycle, presidential cycle? They open an office in downtown X to cater to the Hispanic or the black vote. Yeah. And a week after the election's over, they close the office. Yeah. Right? They know that.
I know.
Right? The voters know that. They know they cannot count on the Republicans.
Yeah. It happens in my county.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just asinine, that we do these kind of things. So, if we want to be successful, we need to be embedded in these communities year round, right? We need to support their baseball team. We need to support their galas. We need to support, anything that's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to buy some tables at some of the different, events, and they wouldn't allow us to put the Republican Party on the table, right? Because they knew we wouldn't be there. Everyone else had their names on the table, but we couldn't have our name on the table, right? But there's ways to interject, into that. This was really interesting. I bet you this was 15 years ago. We had a black gentleman come in from Washington, D.C. to NRA headquarters. We have an outreach committee, which I'll talk about in a minute. And he came in, and it was interesting because one of his employees, his son ran this clothing business. And one of the son's employees came in one day and says, "I'm taking over the business." Just an employee taking over the business. And the guy said, "No, you're not." His son said, no, you're not. And he shot and killed him, the employee. Right? So you think that this guy would be Mr. Anti-Gun, right? Because gun used to kill his son. And he went out and got a degree in psychiatry, psychology, trying to understand what went on. And, it was a very, sad story, but to listen to him, I said, well, why are you constantly voting for the Democrats? Right? If the Democrats are doing nothing, they closed down, that was the other thing, is they closed down the community center for the kids. Right? They got money for everything else, but they closed down his community center. I says, well, why do you vote for the Democrats? He says, because we know the Republicans we can't rely on. They're never here. And the Democrats are here, and we know they're going to do nothing. Right? He says, we know they're going to do nothing, and we still vote for them.
Yeah.
Right? So, it defies all logic.
We got to build that bridge.
But that's what we're up against.
Yeah, I know.
Right? So, I said I served here, 15 years on the NRA's outreach committee. And the outreach committee was bringing in those minority demographics, right? Is, the good old white boys club, everyone thinks. And if you look at our demographics, we're pretty diverse. I mean, we're the oldest and largest civil rights organization. We had Buffalo Soldiers back in the late 1800s members, right? I mean, I met a woman at a football game recently that was Eagles Commanders.
Okay.
And she was a black woman, and she said, "I want to thank you because the NRA stuck up for her dad protecting their farm in Georgia." Right? You don't hear those kind of stories, right? So, we've got an outreach committee. I was vice chair for a good many years, probably 3 or 4 years. But our members included, like, internationally known Roy and Niger Innes. I mean, a lot of people see Niger on Fox and some of the other part of CORE. Georgia Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, Orlando Salazar, the CEO of the Conservative Hispanic Media Group. I mean, we've got a who's who on that committee. Chris Chang, who ran Top Gun. I don't know if you know Chris. Sheriff Clark, Mercedes Schlapp. I mean, just great individuals. And it's really interesting, like, Sheriff Clark talking about what it takes to get into the black community. And he says it's so simple, And he said, the barbershops are like cliques. They're almost like gangs, right? So he says, you know what? You go and you give them a bunch of baseballs and some gloves or some bats and have them have some competition between the barbershops.
Right.
A couple of signs here. I mean, it was just interesting to understand the dynamics as this white boy would never understand.
Right.
But we have these resources out there that we can tap. And we don't need to hire consultants with these reports that are worthless. I mean, we tried that. We did that route. I'll be honest with you. They don't get it, right? So you got to go to the inner source there. So, what I'd like to see, is we got to gain the trust of the leaders, and we're committed in action, right? I always say, actions speak louder than words.
You do.
Right? And we haven't been successful at that. Now, this cycle, I spearheaded a bunch of Hispanic outreach. I got involved with a Hispanic group back in 2016. They were just starting up. They wanted to go to the White House. President Trump invited them to the White House, but they didn't have the money. Mm-hmm. And I never knew it till just recently that the money I ceded to them got them going.
Oh, nice.
So I felt good about it, but I never knew that had happened till actually just this past inauguration when I was with them down in D.C. at the Hispanic Gala. And they have a program, and I'm not going to go into detail because it is what I'll call our stealth secret sauce program. Mm-hmm. But they've made major changes in 3 to 4 states with how they do things. And they called me, and I had their executive director up, I had their founder up, I brought some leaders here, community leaders, and I brought some donors, and nobody did anything. Right? We don't need to go after the Hispanic community. We don't have to go after the black. We don't have to go after the Islamic. They're just blinders on. And we can't win elections if we don't start including, because the Hispanic community is going to be bigger than the white community. Yeah. I mean, we had 15 flights, over 2,000 fly into Lehigh Valley Airport of illegals. Mm-hmm. Right? We tracked them. Nobody did anything about them. Nobody cared. Right? I mean, there's a government federal law on the books that we're supposed to, the governors here in Pennsylvania are supposed to do something about it, but they don't do anything.
Do what?
On the illegals that come into the state. So, Lou Barletta actually brought that up to our attention. We didn't even know about it. I could look that up again.
I'm a big fan of Lou.
I'm sorry?
I'm a big fan of Lou.
Mm-hmm. So, we're in the planning stages now. We had some great outreach in the Hispanic community. I'm getting calls from them right now. Hey, Bill, how can we help you now? Mm-hmm. I mean, in Philadelphia and different areas, it's like they're coming out, says, you helped us, how do we help you? So I'm encouraged by that. But, we're in the planning stages for some, innovative programs now year round. Okay. And, I'm excited. I've got a Hispanic Emmy-winning award reporter. So she's coming up in the spring. Okay. And we're going to do some outreach with them, some innovative outreach. And, they're just as hungry too to do outreach. So it's just not us, Yeah. So, we can talk about that. Again, if you go back to we don't understand the tactics of our enemy, mm-hmm. which, maybe that's the wrong word to use, enemy.
But I think it's pretty factual.
But, I talked to our rural legislators, and I said, they're coming after you. And says, oh, no, I'm rural. I'm not worried. They're not going to come after me. I says, oh, really? Let me show you this directive from the Democrat Director of Rural Outreach. Mm-hmm. They want to rent the 31 drive-in movie theaters across PA to do drive-in mail-in ballot processing. Mm. Where are the drive-in movie theaters? Mostly in the rural counties.
Yes, they are.
Right? I mean, Republicans could never think of this, right?
We can, we just don't.
Well, we don't even think about it. I mean, we stick our head in the sand.
Some of us do.
So, but so, that's what we're up against. So that brings us really into this fundraising. Your next question.
Next question. Can I get to it? We'll
ahead.
segue right into that.
Absolutely.
Great answers. Fundraising and resource allocation. What strategies would you implement to ensure robust fundraising for the state party, and how would you prioritize resource allocation across regions with varying levels of Republican support?
So you want the canned response?
Whatever response you want to give.
Well, again, we don't want to divulge all the tactics of things we can do, but there's certain things here. And,
a flyover.
Fundraising, everyone knows, is really complex, mm-hmm. right? I mean, how many texts do you get? I still get in texts for fundraising,
yes.
Right? We've lost the advantage of texting now. Mm-hmm. It's now delete. Mm-hmm. We don't even read them, mm-hmm. right? So it's very complex, and it's one of the hardest to execute on. I was a big donor. Mm-hmm. I got so discouraged, disappointed with what was happening with my money, I stopped. Mm-hmm. They don't get any more money from me, mm-hmm. right? I mean, you can see all the stuff there in the bookcase, right? Yeah. Done, guys.
Yeah.
Right? You told me you had $100 million. Every retreat we went on in the 2020 election, you had $100 million, the RNC, to fight election fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And you had 10,000 attorneys lined up.
Mm-hmm.
Where were they?
What happened?
There were none.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, it wasn't only election fraud, there's fraud of me as a donor.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier. Instead of suing, maybe we should do what the Democrats do and take over where we vote, so we can count the vote.
Well, we need to do that, right? And you know, so you can't fundraise until you define what you're selling, right? And I'm going to talk about that a little later. But you know, our website, and I don't know if I have it. I don't have it handy here, but you know, go to our website, and you know,
Which website?
The GOP website,
Okay.
right? And let's see here. It says we're for lower taxes, right? And then I get this fundraising letter. Actually, my wife got it. They won't send it to me anymore. I think they're, you know.
They're mad at you?
Well, I won't help them anymore.
You need to pay for the envelope?
I'm going to have to now pay, you know. But, you know, we get this thing here, and, you know, what's it say here? And it's like, you know, we're working hard for you. Well, you're supposed to be working hard for me, right? But it says, you know, our agenda is simple. Tax release for every American. Right? Well, it's laughable. It's a bunch of crap, right? If you look, and the donors know this, that's our problem, right? The donors have woke up, right? I like to say actions speak louder than words. Our donors and voters want lower taxes, but our legislators have voted for $3.2 billion of more spending in a budget year, $2.4 billion, $2.8 billion. I mean, we're spending billions, not millions, billions out there, and we never get anything in return, right? I ran a petition back in, I think it was 2022, to use, for the Republicans to use the budget as leverage to get certain things passed, right? Voter ID. I mean, we had voter ID on the April ballot, but our Republicans went and voted for a Democrat speaker when we still had the majority. We needed one more vote in the House, and it would have been on the ballot in April for voter ID, which we know, 80-something% want voter ID?
Yes.
And the Republican House votes for a Democrat speaker, and then they just did it again. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's frustrating. So, you know, we want all this, but when we're doing billions and billions and billions of budget increases, it's tax money. It's not their money. It's the voters' money. And I don't understand. And then when we run out of the COVID money, and we run out of the tobacco money, and we run out of the, you know, whatever Biden's Build Back Better money, then everyone's going to be screaming, oh, well, we need money for the kids. We can't fund the schools, right? Well, you just blew it all on these programs. And, you know, we put our kids in cyber school. And, you know, they're done in 2.5 hours every morning. So what's the schools doing the rest of the day? Babysitting? Right? And they're out doing productive things with their lives. So, you know, we've lost all credibility with the donors. You know, the fundraising, we need to identify the general types of the donors, right? We have businessmen and businesswomen. They're a donor class. We have one-issue donors, right? We have individuals. We have PACs. I got approached by a lot of outside the state groups because said, you know, our state is so red. We know we're electing Trump. We need to help Pennsylvania. What can we do? Right? Well, I don't know if I haven't heard anybody else directing what to do. Right? I don't hear any other parties approached. I got approached. So we directed that. You know, and you know, certain election law things you can and can't do. So we make sure we stay conscious of that. But, you know, our businessmen mostly want return on investment, right? We're business people, right? What does that mean? You know, they want their donation used in an effective manner. They want it used, you know, to support legislators that support their business interests, right? I mean, we've got so much over-regulation. I haven't heard us in Harrisburg cutting regulations. We just keep adding and adding and adding. And you know what? We want help for our employees. Right, our worker comp rates are ridiculously high. Right, we need to clean that program up. There's a lot of other things we can do, And that's why business people give. But when they don't do that, and I had a legislator come to our donor group here, and oh, I'm the best conservative guy, I'm doing this and this, and then I handed him his 12 pages of voting record.
Right, exactly.
And the other donors were like, well, but he's a good guy. I said, yeah, but he's voted against all our values and principles almost every time. Yeah. And they're like, we didn't know that. Guess what? He left with no money. So we've got to start putting some leverage on that. The one issue, school choice, right? Second Amendment, pro-life, less government. Does the party stand by them, right? Or do we flap away? The Democrats will fall on their sword every day, and they never hurt them, right? But we can't ever get a consensus, right? Did we just get that in the Senate here, approving our secretary for the military? No. We splinter all the time. We've got to start sticking together. And when we stick together, our legislators will fight for us. I mean, they'll fight for us. We'll fight for them, right? They'll get elected in overwhelming numbers because look at our state senator we have here. He won by 11,000 votes. Because he was for the voters. He wasn't for what the party wanted him to do. He was for the voters. And I think if you go across the state, you'll hear that. But we can't keep sticking our head in the sand as there was no election fraud in Pennsylvania. I mean, 85% of the people know there was. But we've done nothing about it. And there's subtle things we can do that'll make a big difference. So that's another discussion that'll take days, right? But what we really need, is we need a multi-year budget, right? If we're going to start planning for candidates to start bringing along developed candidates for 2 to 3 years from now, we need to start funding that work now. So we need a multi-year budget, right? And right now, I'm not sure if I'm going to say we're living, fundraising letter to fundraising letter. I don't know that, right? I'm not on the finance committee. I do know there are donors that I've spoke with said they would come back. To what level? I don't know. I know some that used to give significant dollars. And when I met with them a year and a half or it'll be 2 years ago now. Yeah, a good 2 years. They said, we're not giving any more money. Right? That's detrimental to the party. We cannot survive as a party without fundraising.
Well, if you do the right thing, they'll come back.
They'll come. I believe they will. I really do. Because what I want to do is I want to say, okay, you know what? We have this special project, Mr. Businessman. This is what it means to the organization. This is your return on investment. Would you donate? We have another donor that'll match, right? When I give money to a lot of nonprofits and everything, I do matching. I says, okay, I'll give you X, but you need to match it 1 to 1 or 2 to 1, because then you get exponential value from it. So if we do the same thing and get matching dollars to do projects, I mean, I have a project right now that'll get funded from out of state. They're all over it. What can we do? And if we fund it for PA, can we take it to XX and X states? And I says, absolutely. But that's when you've got trusted relationships. And we're not quite there yet.
We're gonna get back to it.
We do, and we'll go into collaboration here.
All right, let me ask you that question. Okay, collaboration with local and national leaders. How would you work with county level party organizations, state lawmakers, and national Republican leadership to align goals, share resources, and maintain a cohesive message?
So I'm going to be a little bit of a politician here and not answer your question.
I'm leaving.
I'm not going to answer your question.
Okay.
No, I worded it a little differently, right? Because, collaboration, starts with the national leaders, with earning trust and having integrity. Right? I taught my boys at a young age that you have a firm handshake and you look somebody in the eye, right? Because I learned something when I was very young. I think it was 18 or 19, and I was living across in New Jersey. I was farming in New Jersey, and we went down to Leola, Pennsylvania, to a Massey Ferguson dealer there, M.M. Weaver, and I bought a combine, a couple $100,000 combine for corn and soybeans. This is what it was.
Handshake.
Handshake, right? Didn't know me from Adam, right? Nothing, right? Bought the combine, they delivered it to me, and then comes back and says, oh, by the way, the manufacturer has a rebate program. We can give you one machine bigger for the same price.
Ethical. That's nice.
Right? And I'll always remember, it was Ed and Irvin Weaver that owned it then. I mean, maybe it was a generation before that. And Amos was their parts guy. And I'd call Amos up and says, I'm coming down at midnight, and they'd leave the parts on the dock for me, and then they'd send me a bill. And that was the way I did business my whole life, even in my computer business to a certain degree. And then when we started getting, into the 30, 50, $100 million range.
You can't leave that on the porch.
No, because there was a lot of unethical people, right? I mean, I could tell you stories of things, but you've got to build that integrity. And I've been humbled and amazed at the relationships I've cultivated over the years. It's just, and we just talked about it last night, Tom and myself. We stopped for some pizza on the way home after 5 hours of coming from the Northwest.
And texting and calling me.
And texting and calling you, along with a lot of other phone calls, right? Because we can't waste time. But, from my farming days to technology and politics, I was County Board of Ag president back in the early 80s. And I got to do some really unique foreign delegation dinners. Right, with Latvia, and at that time China, and China was trying to reach out and to learn about it. So it started at a young age, and it just never, I never felt it that way. As I could talk to the Latvian agricultural minister back then, right? And like I sent him a Hewlett Packard calculator, and it wasn't allowed to be exported to them.
Wow.
Right? Because but so I started back then. And then, as being a large, what we call systems integrator, I got to work with the who's who of companies. I mean, it was just amazing to work with a company out in Long Island that tested ejection seats for fighter jets, right? They could warp 6 inches of steel with a magnet to test magnetic input on steel. And when I was there, they were testing the hulls of submarines for depth charges. Wow. So, I mean, just unbelievable stuff from law to manufacturing to chemical manufacturing. But I got to meet with really good leaders and learn leadership from them. What worked, what didn't work. 20 years of being on the NRA board, owning the sporting clay range of the who's who. I mean, a CEO of a major pharmaceutical company got his job offer the day before Thanksgiving in my parking lot over there. And we became friends. We shot every Wednesday before Thanksgiving for years. But he says, I got my job offer.
Shoot turkey?
No, yeah. Here,
I know.
One of these. No, don't drop it, right? But, it's interesting to, listen to him, and says, I've had 500 pages of reports from this multi-billion dollar international to keep track of, right? I mean, how do you do that? I can't even comprehend, doing that for, we do it for NRA, and we're only a $300 million organization, but when you're into the billions and into so many different, it takes real leadership.
Yeah.
And, and then you've got a really good board behind you. So, I'm respected and trusted by a lot of these people because I've earned it over the years, right? With the Trump team. I was a political novice when I started back in 2016. I was trying to survive as a business owner. Or at that time we probably had 3 or 4 businesses. So I never really understood politics, right? I mean, my buddy would say, hey, give $1,000 to this guy. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you know what? He may be a good guy to have a drink with, but not to run my state or not to run, the government. And that's the frustrating part. So, I've built that respect up. I was just talking with a colleague the other day, and he says, Bill, a general's calling you. So I called him back, right? And after he reads these words, he says, who don't you know?
Right.
And I said, it's, they say that it's 7 degrees of separation.
Yep.
Well, it seems to be either 1 or 2. right? Because of being out there across the country and I wrote this down because, if you needed to talk to an AG, Attorney General, right? Well, I supported the Republican Attorney Generals Association. I knew all the AGs at one time. I don't know them all now, but there's still some I can pick up the phone. When I needed one 4 years ago for a really special project for Pennsylvania, which I wouldn't get help from a PAAG, another one offered to help. Right? No questions, just what can I do? Right? So if you want to talk to an AG, you want to talk to a tech leader, an energy leader, Hispanic leaders, black leaders, conservative Hispanic media leaders. I can go on and on. I've built good relationships with these people over time, right? The producer of Sound of Freedom. I don't know if you've watched the movie. It's on sex trafficking.
Yes.
I can't watch it, right? I just, by what Eduardo told us about, what's in it and what happened, I'll watch it, but to listen to the story, how Disney locked that up from them for 6 years for money.
Right.
Disgusting. Is more than disgusting, right? I'll never go to another Disney location or any of that stuff. But I want to get Eduardo here. I want to get Bob Buchanan from Goya. They'll come. We'll get who's going to invite them.
Right.
We don't have to pay consultants to bring speakers in. They're willing to come.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the frustrating part of how we operate our party is what you're paying for speakers. Yeah. Now, I can't get 67 speakers for 67 dinners, but if we pooled maybe some of the counties together, and instead of getting 50, now we got 200 or 300 because we had good speakers, let's try to get some of them in. So, that comes back down to, collaboration with local sources. This spring, I think I said earlier, I've got an Emmy Award-winning Hispanic media host coming. And she's super excited. And she did an interview with me back, it would have been September. We were in Dallas for an NRA board meeting, and we snuck away. And this was neat because the studios were in Glenn Beck's, not Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh's old studio.
Oh, nice.
So his room's still there and everything, yeah. So, that was precious to be there for that and see that. So,
You think he'd be happy about this last election?
He's dancing. He's dancing.
He's smiling.
But we've got to win this Hispanic community. Yeah. They are hardworking, right? They're family oriented. Yeah. They're God loving. They're us, right? They just want to be left alone.
The legal ones.
The legal, yes, because the legal ones are just as mad as we are at the illegals, right? That they went through citizenship, they earned their way in, right? My dad, was born in Germany. He came in during the war. Come in legally. That's all we're asking, right? And to let them come over the border. We got a huge problem, with this Engage Cuba thing that Rothman's involved with, right? I don't know if you know about Engage Cuba.
No.
So he claims he went to Cuba 10 to 12 times for baseball.
Okay.
Consultants, it's such bullshit, right? You don't go to Cuba to play baseball, right? That's your cover story when you're going there. So he's co-founder, based on Sam Faddis's video, of co-founding something called Engage Cuba, right? And the PA chapter, and therefore normalizing relationships with Cuba, right? Now, what did Trump just do? He just put them back on the terrorist list, right? It's a communist country. They lock up their citizens. There's no freedom there, right? So the Hispanic Cuban Americans that are in this country don't want what Biden did, opening the borders, opening trade with them, right? Castro, Cuba's communist. Yeah. China's got listening posts there.
Yes, they do.
So now you're going to say, I'm the party chairman and I support normalized relations with Cuba. At the Hispanic Gala at the inauguration that it was last week, last weekend, sitting next to me was a gentleman, his name's Z. His family's 100-year-old cigar rolling company in Cuba. His dad's locked up by Castro. Right? So we can't have this double standard, right? If we
Yeah.
want to build trust with the Hispanic community, we got to support the Hispanic community. We can't embrace them and says, oh, we want open borders with them. We've got to isolate them till they come over and become non-communist. So, and it's not only the Cubans too, it's almost all the Hispanic community that's come from the socialist, communist countries in Central and South America. So we can't afford to lose that community. And they understand. I mean, one of the gentlemen that's very, very very active in our Lehigh Valley Tea Parties, Cuban Hispanic. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say Cuban Hispanic, that's an oxymoron.
Right. Cuban American.
Cuban American. And to listen to the stories of what goes on there is unreal. Mm-hmm. And so why do we want to support that? I mean, especially as a state senator, we should be against this stuff.
Yeah.
But, that's how they break down little walls, little at a time, and all of a sudden it's okay. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So, we've got a lot of work to do in that area. We just have to, again, listen, be there for them, right? Help them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of business owners out there, Hispanic business, fastest growing business segment.
We have it up in Luzerne County.
Why aren't we mentoring them? Why aren't we helping them?
Yeah.
We help everyone else.
Yeah.
Let's help them.
Yeah.
So, that's part of my outreach, national exposure. It's out there to be tapped, but it's not built overnight, right? You just can't show up tomorrow and says, hey, how you doing? Come with me, do this with me, right? And that's what I think is missing here is it's been cultivated for years and years with what I've been doing, unbeknownst to me. I don't even realize it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't go take pictures. Everyone wants selfies with it. That's not me. We all put our pants on the same way, right? We're all good family men. We're all good business people. We're doing what's right. Yeah. And others, hold them up on a pedestal a different way. And I've never done that. And, I remember Eric saying, you're one of my top 10 best friends because you never asked for anything. Yeah. Right? We're just friends. Yeah. And it's a little bit more than friends too. But it's how that's how I want to be treated. Yeah. Let's treat everyone else the same way.
Yeah. All right. Good. Second to last question. Okay. we're coming down the pike. Messaging and policy focus. What policies or issues do you believe resonate most with Pennsylvania voters, and how would you tailor the party's messaging to connect with both traditional Republican voters and swing voters?
I took a saying that from about 25 years ago, and I modified it for dealing with politics, in particular Republicans. And I've repeated this before, so it may not be new to everyone, but I said if the Republicans marketed sushi, they would call it cold, dead, raw fish.
The Democrats would market it better.
Well, maybe in between, right?
They're pretty good at marketing.
But for the most part, our messaging doesn't resonate with our voters.
Exactly.
And if it doesn't resonate with our voters, it's not resonating with their donors.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. During the 2024 election cycle, November, I like to say we had the perfect storm.
We did.
Right. Everyone says, wow, we won PA, we won everything. Well, we had illegals, open border, right? We had a fentanyl crisis. We had illegals killing Americans, right? We had the worst presidential candidate to run against. And I said this yesterday, and I couldn't remember her name. This is how quickly we forget her name, Harris.
I knew you were.
So we had the perfect storm here, and we won by 120,000 votes.
Right.
And hundreds of thousands of Democrats didn't come out to vote.
Right.
So we didn't have a great election. Yeah, we won by the skin of our teeth. Yeah. But if we had a better candidate, if they had a better candidate, I'm not sure.
I'm going to interrupt you right there.
Go ahead.
I tell that to everybody. Everybody goes, how do we win? I go, it was the Democrats I have to give most of the credit to. Then President Trump.
Yeah.
then the grassroots, then the party.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be the party first.
Where was the party?
In our county,
They did nothing.
very little.
Well, that's because they don't like Trump. They despise him. At least that's my feeling and what I hear, right? The MAGA movement's going to go away. It's not going to go away.
Yeah. And not all party, because we did have, in our area, we did have Dan User supporting Trump.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
100%.
Dan was there 1,000%.
Dan's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Rob Rosenhan is great.
Yeah. I mean, so, from the messaging point of view is, we're just not resonating out there. And about 2 years ago, I put together a whole marketing plan for marketing the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared it with some state reps. Deaf ears.
Yeah.
Nothing. Right? I mean, it's just like, deaf ears. They stick their head in the sand and expect things to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we've got the 2026, the midterms coming up real quick. Yeah. And we can't afford, Trump cannot afford, if we lose the House, we had a 2-year term for Trump because nothing's going to get done.
You're 100% correct.
And we got to fight all over again.
Yeah.
And with the machine we have, we're not prepared to win that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We ran Hunt the Vote for Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
We brought in 268,000 mail-in ballots
mm-hmm.
from the conservative hunters.
Mm-hmm.
268,000.
We were doing that with Chase the vote in Luzerne County.
If we didn't do all those programs, right? Chasing the ballots, voter registration, grassroots, the volunteers, all these programs, we wouldn't have won.
Correct.
Right? I mean, the margin that Bresnahan won by was the number of hunters that voted once in the last 4 elections,
mm-hmm.
and our new hunters we got registered.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Same thing down here in PA 7, and we kept PA 10, which is Scott Perry's district.
Yeah.
Right? And when I went up and did the presentation up to Center County, I was up with Hunt the Vote there, and I think I had both Don Jr. and Ted Nugent on the Zoom call up there. And G.T. Thompson, Congressman Thompson, came up to me afterwards and says, well, what does it take to turn Center County red?
Yeah.
And my group came back, gave them a number.
They're close, aren't they?
I'm sorry?
Southern County's close to flipping, isn't it?
It turned red.
It turned red?
It turned red.
That's right.
It turned red.
Yeah.
And it turned red because I Hunt the Vote.
Yeah.
With everyone else's work.
Correct.
Okay. I don't want to say that was the only reason.
No.
It was, again, our grassroots, our volunteers.
It's always the people.
It's everybody. It is. You can't, anyone that says, oh, I did it, bullshit, right? It's everyone. And we've got to recognize the work they did, and now we got to build on it.
Yeah.
Right? We've got to continue it. So there's a lot of messaging that the party needs to start, talking about. And, I wrote down, the party, let's define what the party stands for, right? Practice it and legislate it, right? Voters will flock to us
mm-hmm.
if we have messaging and what they stand for.
Yeah.
Right? The Democrats are just as unhappy with their party as we are with ours,
mm-hmm.
right? How many of them went to independent?
Yeah.
They're all looking for homes,
yeah.
right? Let's invite them in.
Yeah.
I don't care if their voter registration stays Democrat, as long as you vote Republican.
Yeah.
Right? And I've been told that some of these Democrats will never switch parties because their father was, their grandfather was, their great-grandfather was. They're not, but they will vote for us.
Or they're in fear of their jobs.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not as much anymore as it used to be.
Up in Luzerne County it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Scranton too. Lackawanna too.
Yeah. See, and there's the perfect example of regionalization or county by county by county.
Yeah.
It's different. And we've got to understand that, and the grassroots is the one that tells us that,
mm-hmm.
right? Because otherwise the state party chair is going to say, oh, we need to do this, and we just alienated X,
mm-hmm.
right? So we've got to communicate with everyone.
Right.
So, I said, who's not for free speech, right? Who's not for Second Amendment rights or protecting your family? Religious freedoms, happiness, individual freedom, school choice, being parents of our children, cheap energy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Trump got it, cheap energy, right? We're the Saudi Arabia of natural gas, right? We can't get it out of the area, so we've got to figure out how to use it in the area here.
Yeah.
But it affects everyone. Right? Oh, I don't have a car. Well, how do you get your food? How do you get your clothing? How do you get your everyday living? It's all geared on energy.
Correct.
So we've got to start pushing that. Clean, responsible energy. Right? Not over the board. Right?
Right.
I remember Kelsey Grammer. From Cheers, right? Be careful, Kelsey.
Or Fraser.
Fraser, yeah. He won't do an event for me now. But, we were talking, we went down to a fundraiser in Florida together. And he was helping support the wind turbines off the coast of New Jersey there, to get rid of them because the whales are killing themselves.
Right.
It's probably the frequency being driven down into the water. I've got 50-something wind turbines on the mountains of where my Camp Freedom is. They're not on my property, so I don't get any money.
Right.
But they're rarely running.
Yeah.
Right? Why aren't we using them? Right? Oh, well, legislation, somebody told me, only allows them to produce so many megawatts a year. And it's so costly. When I had my data center business, my electric bill was a couple $1 million a month. A couple million a month.
Wow.
Right? And we looked at solar and how expensive that was because we wanted to add some green component to we couldn't justify it. Wind was even worse.
Right.
Right. And nuclear is the most cost effective.
Yeah.
And now with what they're doing with nuclear technology is amazing.
Yeah.
And fail safe too. They talk about opening up 3 Mile Island. How many, what's that, 30, 40 years old?
Yeah.
It scared me to open that.
Yeah. Right.
But this new technology that's out there today is what these, artificial intelligence, by the way. When I designed my data centers, I had 400 watts per square foot. That's the power density. So we could put cabinets in, where everyone else was like at 100. Okay. I just talked to my buddy now. He says we're over 2,000 watts per square foot. 2,000 watts. I had 30, 40 megawatts of backup generator. Way over my head. Okay, I see the eyes glossing over, right?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but megawatts. It's astronomical, and we can't power all this artificial intelligence they're talking about. China doesn't care. They're building coal plants, right? The last number I think was 68 coal plants a year, right? So we're worried about saving some stove or some hot water heater from putting out a little bit, and they don't care.
And they're burn, baby, burn.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
No wonder why we're losing.
And it's just crazy. But, there again is Republican messaging is, why do we want low energy, right? Why don't we want to frack? I understand the natural gas. I've got wells, right? I've got educated on them, right? Oh, we don't need pipelines. Well, natural gas doesn't go into the ground and pollute the ground, people. It's lighter than air. It goes up in the air if we have a leak. Yeah. But all these pipeline right-of-ways are phenomenal nature areas, right? The deer can come out and eat now, graze, the birds. Yeah. Yeah. You've got now a natural area for conservation. And that's, but we don't, but nobody promotes that, right? It's, some lady in Philadelphia is, we're going to pollute the groundwater. That's why they didn't put the pipeline from up there down through the, down through this area, because they're uneducated, and it's emotional, right? So, that's really where we're at. I could go on on so many different topics, but I'm respectful of your time too, and our members out there.
Yeah, no, it's good information. Now the last question. This was actually done by another person in Luzerne County and his son-in-law, Blue Barletta, Chris Hunsinger.
Okay.
And he asked this question. I told him I put this in for both of you because of the governorship with Mastriano and Barletta, I think. We know the Democrats meddled in our primary election in the governor's race. What measures will you take as chair to prevent the circus, this last circus, in our future for statewide elections?
I did see that at the bottom. I put zero mental thought into it.
Right.
But I'm going to go off the cuff here.
Yes.
That election cycle was, like you said, crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, it was. I mean, I think at one time there was 16 said they were going to run. I don't remember what it finally came down to.
Right.
Was it 13 or 9?
It was crazy.
It was crazy. Right?
It was,
that, I believe, was driven by a lot of, and I'm going to go off the cuff here because I haven't got it fully researched, but I'm going to say that nobody was happy with the other candidates.
Right.
Because again, we didn't start thinking about the election to the last minute, and everyone thought they were better than the others. Where do the consultants make money?
Yeah.
Races.
Yeah.
Right. Playing off your ego.
Yep.
TJ, you could be governor.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just give us money.
Exactly. Right. And when they lose, it's not that they ran a bad campaign. It's that we had a bad candidate.
Yeah.
They don't ever take responsibility.
No.
Right. So there was too many running. State party should sit down and talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to, I don't care who wins the primary. Can they win the general election? That's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe we could have removed some of them.
Yeah.
But they cannibalized each other.
Yeah.
Right. They all took a couple percentage, and then Mastriano got enough to be our candidate.
Right.
Right. So I don't have the crystal ball here, but I think it just comes down to talking with these committee. I mean, I was asked by some of the members of the Trump team to run for U.S. Senate because they felt they needed a strong candidate down ballot with Trump. And I called Dave McCormick up and I said, Dave, are you running? And he was up in Alaska fishing. It took him a couple of days to get to me.
Right.
And he said, yes, I'm running. And I said, okay, I just want to let you know what's going on. I ran some polling numbers. I've got numbers that will do very, very well. But if you're running, we do not need a contested primary to beat each other up.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have the money to have a contested primary.
Yeah, correct.
And you already ran the first time.
Yeah.
Right. So you already have an advantage. I have no ego that I had to run. I had the best campaign slogan there was. Bill Bach better. Right? The Democrats would have voted for me because they thought it was Biden, right?
Because they are uneducated.
Yeah. No, they're not. I mean, they're
Some of them. Some of us are not educated.
So that's where it comes down to is, I had no ego. I didn't need to be. I don't want to run. I don't want to be involved in, running for politics. This is not a stepping stone for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to be governor.
Yeah.
I don't want to be. I don't want. I didn't want to do this.
So what do you want?
Okay. When they forced Ted Christian out of the race, and I got the phone calls, we've got to do something. That's why I got in. And then when I got in and listening to the rural communities and the grassroots and the chairman out there of how hard they worked, what they poured their heart and soul into doing, and not getting any respect or help, and then realizing that all the hours that I put in the last 4 years, it would be all go up in smoke. So I'm willing to do this. Right? God gave me some talent, some skills. I'll do it to my best ability. And that's why I'm doing it. It's not for me. I mean, I'm supposed to be retired, right? Yeah. Then sometimes I kid around.
I don't know why either one of you are.
Well, it was funny. I had a friend of mine. I texted him, and he was in the White House for all 4 years with Trump, and he said, "Amazing." And I wrote back, "No, crazy," right? Because you've got to be. I mean, let's be realistic here.
You have to be passionate.
Yes, and putting in, I did the math. It was actually probably 12,000 hours, but at least 11,000 hours the last 4 years on all this election fraud, election integrity, lots of other things that were going on. I couldn't waste that, right? I got out of high school a year after Vietnam, right? And I was farming, so I didn't go into the military. My wife did 21 years in the Air Force. She left as lieutenant colonel.
Thank her for
Yeah.
her service.
Oh, well, absolutely.
Please.
Very. So she paid her dues to the country. She was in both Iraqi wars and Bosnia peacekeeping. So in 2020, after we lost the election, I said, "This is my military duty back to the country, to put back." And maybe this is a little bit more of trying to save what we stand for, because God forbid if Harris had won. I mean,
we would have had a fascist society.
Well, and because the way they came after me, I mean, I had a January 6th House subpoena against me. I had a DOJ subpoena against me because I was chairman of the Electoral College as an alternate elector. And then I was chairman because our state chairman didn't show. Right? Our own state chairman decides not to show. So they went around the table and said, "Oh, Bill, you're friends with the Trumps. Why don't you be chairman?" Well, no good deed went unpunished, right?
Right.
And then I get a junk lawsuit against me, and I get some other stuff thrown against me. And you know what? I'm a big boy. If Trump can take what he's taking, I can take anything they're going to throw against me.
Yeah.
Right. But that man went through, and his family went through, of the lawfare. And I mean, it's just, and you know what? They did the same thing to NRA. New York State came after us too. So, we've got to stand up for our rights. And, just look what he's done in 5-6 days. I mean, we stopped at a location off of Route 80, a gas station, to pick up gas. And the woman behind the counter, I bought a thing of lemonade and it was $2.50. And I said, "Oh, that must be because of Biden," right? And I didn't know what she was going to say, right? And she goes, "Thank God for Trump." And then she went off on Trump. "Oh my God, Donna." And I was like, "Wow."
Yeah, I know. People
she
are
says,
relieved.
"We're so excited. We feel it already, the change."
Yeah.
And to know that I could go to bed the next night without worrying about DOJ knocking down the door in the middle of the night, locking us up for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean, the January 6ers. And there's where the Republicans lost it. We could have gotten those January 6ers out.
Yeah.
Absolutely could have gotten them out.
Yeah. My vice chair is Frank Scavo.
Okay.
January 6th, and he got pardoned.
Well,
He's waiting for the paper.
Ned Lang? Right.
Yeah, well, he's waiting for it right now. I can't wait to have a celebration. He's going to be.
We've got to have something great for him.
Yeah, he's actually going to be running for chairman of Lackawanna County.
Oh, is he?
Yes, he announced it on
January 6th.
Yeah, January 6th, we announced it. Yeah.
No, what they put these families through.
Yeah.
Is this is Cuba. This is communism at its best.
I think it has a twist with fascism because even Zuckerberg was afraid.
Oh yeah.
Of the administration. That's a police state.
We were there.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of work to do. It's not over yet.
Okay.
But
all right, let's end this with the last thing. I just same as Mr. Rothman. I asked him, "Hey, any last words about your opponent or anything? Whatever you want to say, this is the time to say it."
No, Greg's a good guy.
Yes,
I don't drink, but I go down to a bar and have a drink with him. But we have
great time with him.
Other, differences, right? Yeah. And I just don't see how a sitting politician could be objective enough, independent enough. And I talked to my own state senator. I says, they're trying to say, "I don't have time. Do you have time to do something like this?" He says, "Absolutely, I don't." He says, "I'm out every night."
Yeah.
Right? They're busy. We've got one of the few state legislators that's almost in session year round. So that's a problem. But I think we all agree, the state party needs a new direction, and it needs to come bottom up instead of top down. Yeah. So, that's really, what we want to do. Lynn Ryan's running as my vice chair. And, Lynn and I want to change past history where the vice chairman was just a backup to the chairman, right? There is so much work to do. we need a vice chairman to roll up their sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
And Lynn brings a lot of the operational levels, right? She ran Lawrence County many years. It's red. She's won all her races. She understands that level to much more detail. So we complement each other from a strategic, real hardcore business to business / the grassroots side. We complement each other. We cover both sides of the state, right? Because, it's 5 hours across. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
Somebody up in Erie said, will you ever come visit us? And I says, oh, well, you got LECOM up there,
right.
Lake Erie College of Osteopathic Medicine.
Right.
And, I support them, right? I mean, one of those signed Trump hats is for them, for one of their galas.
Nice.
So I says, yeah, I know that. I'm a member of the Duquesne Club, down in
Right.
Pittsburgh area.
Right.
So I've got relationships across the state. And, I'll just stay overnight a night or two and visit, right? I had a manufacturing guy, because I talked about manufacturers, I want you to tour my plant.
Yeah.
I said, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Right? So, Lynn's going to be a real asset for us. And, we can divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And, this is overwhelming if we want real change.
Yes.
Right? If we just want to go through the motions of, let's play the game as the way we used to play it, and we did this for the last 20 years, and we send out these worthless letters here that, of course we want to win.
Yeah.
I mean, you're telling me, well, we want to win? Of course we want to win. That's what we're here for, right? Tell me something that's going to get me enthused and get me out there, and tell me, what, my money's going to be used for something of return on investment, right? So, we're all going to work, there's going to be disagreement.
Yes.
Right? There always is. But I remember Harold Volkmer, he was congressman from Missouri, and he walked out of a Rush Limbaugh dinner we were at together, right? We're sitting next to each other. He's on the board of NRA with me. And he walked out because Rush was talking negative about the Democrats and the Republicans. And next morning I says, Harold, why'd you leave? He says, well, I don't have to sit there and listen to that crap. That's not, I says, Harold, you've been out of the legislature for over 15 years. It's changing. Right? They're not getting along where you can disagree on the floor, and then go out to dinner together, right? Unfortunately, that's part of our problem, right? Is that used to be.
Right.
So, maybe you're right? But that's our problem, is we can disagree, let's shake hands and do what's right?
Yes.
Let's not affect our friendship, but let's do what's right for the state.
Yes.
Right?
That's
all I care about.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care about me. If you don't like, that's fine. But if we're doing right for the voter, for the state, for our citizens, right? Because I got two almost 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's the future for them.
Yeah.
Right? I'm on the NRA board because Second Amendment.
Yeah.
They love to hunt. They love to fish. They love to shoot. Right?
Yeah.
I want to preserve that. I grew up. I had a .22 under my bed when I grew up as a kid, right? Mom and Dad never asked, right? We went out and, we shot groundhogs, right? I used to say we shot rats at the burning pit, right? Every farm had a burning pit.
Right.
So we'd go back and shoot the rats, right? But nobody ever asked, how I was going to use the gun,
right?
New York City in the 1960s, all the kids carried their guns on the subway. Because almost every school in New York City had a rifle range in its basement.
We used to bring our rifles to school for the rifle club.
See?
Put them in the locker.
All right. I had my bow in my locker in high
No
school.
shootings.
No, never had a shooting.
Never
even thought about it.
Nope.
Right?
Different
so
society.
What changed with the morals of our society? Right? So many things.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, again, another conversation. So, why, I said you can count on us to always fight for you.
Yeah.
Right? We have the business contacts. We have the extensive national network. We can turn PA bright red.
Amen.
And, what we're hearing now is I says, please don't be swayed by the phone calls from the consultants. They're getting paid to tell you what you want to hear. But they don't have any zero understanding of really what's going on. And that's the frustrating part, right? Is I got PowerPoints after PowerPoints after PowerPoints that have been given for 4 years. We have solutions because we know what the problems are, the root cause of the problems. They don't. They never heard of the money mules.
Yeah.
They had no idea what's going on in the Sure system. They had no idea what B-Pro was. They weren't immersed in this stuff, right? If you asked me to get involved in, how the nuclear atom works in a power plant, it's not my DNA, right? But this stuff's my DNA because I spent 4 years of learning it, and been able to differentiate all the garbage out there, right? I mean, you look at LNA testing, right? You're familiar with logic and accuracy testing? No. So when you got a voting machine, and before you have the election, you need to test the machines for logic and accuracy testing.
I've been to many of them. Yes, I didn't know what that was. Yeah.
So our county, Lehigh County, right? I go. They have one machine set up.
Same in our county.
Right. Here's the ballots. They run 5 ballots through. I think it was 7 ballots. And see the boxes. I says, okay, now run it through 10 times. Well, we can't do that. This is why I want to find out if that machine is going to give me 10 times that result. Right. No, I can't do that. I says, well, the LNA testing directive, I always keep it with me. Here it is, right? Right. Logic and accuracy testing says no. As the witnesses from a party, you can demand that. We can demand to look inside the machine. Right. Right? No. There's 1,000, in that election, there was 1,000 combinations of how you could vote a ballot. Right? Because all the school board races were on. And there's others. So if I check that one, and then I check this one, I check that one, you got to check every combination. Right. Well, 5 out of 1,000 combinations. And oh, by the way, the ballots were provided by the voting machine manufacturer. They weren't real ballots. Correct. It's a dog and pony show. It is. It's a fraud on the voters. Right? Oh, we did LNA testing. You didn't. Now, some counties fully did the work. Right? I was up in another county up north here, and they were 100% by the book. They did everything right. But when you have Democrat counties, I mean, the ballots were flipped in Northampton, right? Yep. There's my point, right? So, we're knowledgeable on things that the other candidates aren't, right? So, getting back to it, we're working hard to personally contact every committee member. Remember, we got in 25 days ago, right? It's hard. And then when I'm on the phone and Lynn's on the phone, some of these phone calls go over an hour. Yeah. Because nobody's listened to the committee people before. And I've got pages, I got tablets and tablets of notes from them on all the things they're frustrated with. Yeah. And nobody listened to them. And then, others, they won't call you back because they're on the other side and you can't convert them. So, what I said, is we're a phone call away. Yeah. Right? If we haven't gotten to you, we'll get to you. Yeah. And if you have something, call us. And when you do, you're going to preempt somebody else from getting called back. But, I wanted to give everyone our phone number. My phone number is 610-248-2595. And Lynn's number is 724-910-1160. And I'm 1116. Too many digits there. There you go. Yeah. And my email's home@lvsclays.com, Lehigh Valley Sporting Clays.com. So lvsclays.com. So, if you want to continue to make America great, want Pennsylvania great again, please vote for myself and Lynn. And we will bring trust, transparency, and integrity back to the party. So I want to thank everyone, and God bless Pennsylvania and the United States.
Amen. Well, Bill, thank you so much. And just for everybody out there, hopefully our grassroots groups, the Luzerne County Republicans, is brought to you to educate and inform you and hopefully to inspire you to do your due diligence and decide which gentleman deserves your vote, and not because someone told you, because I do realize there's certain people, like you say, that are already, no matter what you say, is going to vote for him for reasons, and certain people are going to vote for you. But this is more for the people that are undecided or need that education. So hopefully we did that. Thank you so much for your time.
And you did have that on record the whole time, right?
I'm hoping. I'm the novice.
TJ, thank you.
Bill, thank you. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Bye now.